Well, this looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Well, I think so anyway, even if some of you don't. Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I am Mick, your host with the most nostalgic girlfriends and your wives. You can follow me on X, Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. On TikTok, Mad Mickey's World, and on Snapchat, BMouth60, Mick, your host with the most, and I'm very proud of what the gods gave me. A very warm welcome to Saturday's edition of the DCU Daily. Yes, we have lots to discuss today. We're going to be discussing that Superman image from James Gunn's Superman movie that James Gunn kindly posted yesterday on his Instagram story. Maybe it was from people like me complaining that they were releasing a Peacemaker 2 teaser when that show doesn't stream on Max till a month after Superman is released, you know, when they should be releasing a Superman full trailer before that. So maybe we got a little bit of something. Maybe James Gunn actually listens to the fans, because James Gunn is known. You know, you can criticise him for other things, but James Gunn is always listening and talking to the fans, and he understands how important his audience is. There's no question about that, and he knows how this film must succeed. This film must make 800 million plus. There's no question about that. Will it? We will have to wait and see. So yeah, let's look at this image, because I think it's a very, very cool image, by the way, everyone. So if we get really, really close, you know I don't have all the text, so this is as good as it gets. Right. So it looks like Superman and Crypto are having a little argument. Now, I don't know if Superman is telling him off for jumping all over him when all his organs were broken and stuff, instead of just dragging him, you know, to the Fortress of Solitude like he originally asked. Look, I'm going to be honest with you here. There is nothing wrong with this image, you see, because I'm not a hater. I don't have an agenda against James Gunn or this movie. I love Superman, I love DC, and I want the DCU to be successful. And I'll give you a spoiler. I really like the Peacemaker 2 teaser trailer as well. It looks perfectly fine, perfectly entertaining, and perfectly compelling. I really liked the first series. We'll talk about that shortly. But yeah, you know, James Gunn's design of the Fortress of Solitude is very comic-centric. It's beautiful. It's stunning. And look, I love what John Barry did with the Fortress design in 78. You know, they didn't have this kind of technology to put this kind of stuff up. This must be partially CGI, surely. I mean, there could be some practical here. There could be like a proper set. But I think also there's some CGI there. Obviously, the robots are CGI, I would assume. Otherwise, that's a great costume, isn't it? But yeah, and if we look at Superman's costume here, it looks better than it has done in the past. It's still not tight enough on him. That's interesting. It slips off a little bit, but you know what? The design of the costume isn't the problem. I know Snyder fans hate the fact that there's red trunks there. That's not my issue. You can have red trunks there. You don't have to have red trunks there. It's not an issue. The fact that it's not tight enough on him is the problem, especially the red trunks. I think they were worried about it being too tight around the, the sausage area, if you like. So anyway, I think the suit looks pretty cool there. And when I've seen it in moving pictures on the teasers, I've actually quite liked the costume. It's not the best Superman costume there's ever been in live action. There's no question about that. But yeah, it's a really cool image. And this is James Gunn. And I want to discuss something now. Let's put this down. My hands are getting tired. But the thing is, right, there's some things I agree. There's some critiques that the Snyder fans bring up about James Gunn and the DCU and this Superman movie that I agree with. But there's one thing that kind of irks me sometimes about Snyder fans. Disclaimer, I love Zack Snyder's DCEU trilogy. I wanted to see more. There was supposed to be more. It was supposed to be more than a trilogy. What happened to Zack, Henry, and everyone else was wrong. Right? But there's a certain selection of Snyder fans who want James Gunn to be Zack Snyder. Let's be clear. It doesn't matter what director took over the DCU, Snyder fans would have been after him or her. Whatever the case, it just happens that James Gunn, as I said yesterday, hasn't done his spring cleaning, hasn't deleted old posts on social media, which is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But he's apologised. He claims the Facebook stuff is part of the hacking. I don't know whether I believe that or not. But hey, again, he's entitled not to like Nolan's Batman movies. He's entitled not to like Burton's Batman movies. He's a fan himself. He is entitled to those opinions. So I don't really think it's a big deal if he did say that stuff on Facebook. But let's be absolutely clear here. James Gunn can only make James Gunn movies. Coppola can only make Coppola movies. Scorsese can only make Scorsese movies. Do you see what I'm getting at here? But Snyder fans, every time they see a joke in a movie, a CBM, or something like that, especially a DC CBM, they seem to be fine with it over at the MCU. They used to hate the MCU when the DCEU and Snyder was in competition with it. Now they shill, they shill the latest MCU movies, right? But they put down other DC things. But every time they hear a joke in a DC movie or a smirk, they rip it to pieces. It's okay to have gags in comic book movies. It's okay to also be serious in comic book movies. You don't have to do all of the same thing. James Gunn has humour in his movies. He also has a lot of drama and serious things going on. There will be a lot of serious themes in this movie. But one of the things I've been told Zaslav and WB Discovery are concerned about is the movie tonally. Because tonally, it is all over the place. Now, if you look at Superman 78 tonally, that's all over the place. And it works. You've got a very serious stoic Krypton. You've got, Ma and Pa Kent, on Smallville. And, a very obedient, respectful young Clark Kent. Then you've got the jokes going in Metropolis. So that tone is all over the place. So if in 1978 people said, we went to see the test screenings, but the tone was all over the place, nowadays people go, oh my God, that's bad. But it's not actually bad. Superman 78 proves that the tone can be both funny and serious, and it can still work. And this is what Gunn does with his movies. James Gunn can only make James Gunn movies. And to demand he becomes more serious and make Christopher Nolan movies or make Zack Snyder movies makes you a hypocrite if you're a Snyder fan saying that. For years now, we've heard the die-hard Snyder fans go, Zack deserved his creative freedom and his creative integrity. So does James Gunn. James Gunn didn't do anything bad to Zack Snyder. Whatever you think about his tweets, whatever you think about the fancy dress thing, right, we're not going into it yet again. It doesn't matter. He's apologised for the tweets. I don't know what the hell was going on at that party. And quite frankly, I don't want to know. As long as he hasn't broken any laws or hurt anyone, right? It's done. It's in the past. I'm moving on. You don't have to, but I'm moving on. That's how Movies TV Mad as a platform is viewing that. And you can say whatever you want about me behind my back. I am not fussed. My opinions, my platform. You don't like those opinions, create your own platform or find another one that shares your opinions. But personally, I think that one of the great things about Movies TV Mad, whether it's on Twitter or here on YouTube or anywhere else on the internet, is that I am not an echo chamber, that I do speak my mind, and I expect you to speak your mind respectfully, that we can agree to disagree. It's one of the few places that can happen these days, and I find that quite refreshing, and it always will be that type of place. You must allow me my views without, taking it to the taking it to the mattresses, right? And I must allow you your views without going all right, mortal enemy, they don't agree with me. It's ridiculous. Anyway, right, so we can agree to disagree. I like what Gunn's done in the comic book arena, in the comic book movie arena, right? His style is his style. I enjoy it, but I also enjoy Nolan's style and Burton's style. But for die-hard Snyder fans, it's Snyder, and it's Snyder DC World, or it's nothing. And sometimes when I hear them talk and they say, oh yeah, Gunn's movies are going to flop, they're crap, look at him laying, look at Superman laying on the floor, why is he so weak, blah, blah, blah. It's clear what's going on in the movie. You get angry with the tornado scene when people misunderstand it. You're misunderstanding what James is doing at that moment when Superman is weakened. The idea is at the beginning of the movie, he's at his weakest and he gets stronger and stronger and more emotionally empowered, and he influences people through his goodness. That's the idea of this film. You know, Zack Snyder, Terrio and Goya did something different, and that's okay as well. So I love this picture. I was excited to see it. It's going to stay on my phone. It's going to stay on my font, and I think it's pretty special. There's a lot of positive things about this movie that I've seen. There's also a few negative things I've seen about this movie, like the flying TV spot, but I've seen more positives about this movie in the marketing than I've seen negatives as far as I'm concerned. Now, let's talk about the Peacemaker 2 teaser trailer that was released yesterday. I really liked it. But then I love these characters and I love what James Gunn did with these characters, especially Christopher Smith, Peacemaker, in the first season. Now we get a surprising, or maybe if you're me, not so surprising cameos. We see Hulk Girl, we see Guy Gardner, and we see Maxwell Lord as well, played by James's brother, of course. And basically what's going on is Peacemaker has gone to an interview to join the Justice Gang. I'm not sure if they're the Justice League yet. We know in Superman they call themselves the Justice Gang. I'm not sure by the end of Superman if they're now the Justice League. Anyway, they're taking new recruits. And so Peacemaker goes there, they totally rip the piss out of him. And, you know, the thing is with me with James Gunn's humour, I find it funny, but a lot of the times I don't find it laugh out hilariously funny. I think that's okay. But I do smirk a bit, and that's why Hulk Girl is the way she is. That's why Guy Gardner is in the DCU. So they can do those types of gags with it. And I think that's perfectly fine. That's James's style. So the sad thing about all of this, of course, that because of geo restrictions, I don't have access to Max. As I've said to you many times, I can't watch this unless I order it on physical media or digital media once it's available, once it's gone through the Max and Warner Brothers system. So while you're watching it in America and other countries that has access to Max, I'll be getting all the spoilers. I have to, because I'll be talking about the information I get from it on this channel, on the DCU Daily. That's my service to you. So I have to be spoiled at the end of the day, because I can't wait like 6 months to find out about this series. So I don't have access. I won't have access to the entirety of the DCU, and that's a shame as far as I'm concerned. So that was a pleasant surprise. The only thing is, it's a kind of spoiler, because you kind of know then that those 3 characters from Superman survived Superman, but basically they were always going to survive Superman. So that's interesting. So yeah, basically this dysfunctional team are a lot closer than they were in season 1. They're together. I forgot. Hardcore, that's her name. Hardcore, played by James Gunn's wife, of course. Jen. I think she's quite a really good, solid actor, by the way. And if I had a missus that could act, she would be in my series and my movies as well. So don't get it twisted. Anyway, she's losing her temper a lot. She's fighting a bunch of drunks in a bar. And her psychologist, or whoever it is, I don't know if it's an Argus psychologist says she's suffering with a big dose of toxic masculinity. Ha 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 ha. And then we see Rick Flag Sr. He's now in charge of Argus, and he's taking all the powers he has as the leader of Argus to go after Peacemaker. And then we see a very interesting scene, which looks like in a pocket universe. It's that kind of room that Peacemaker's dad had in the first season. And we see a second Peacemaker put a gun at our Peacemaker and, says, what the F are you doing here? So that's how the trailer finishes. So very exciting. This is how James Gunn is going to cross from the DCEU to the DCU, and I'm assuming we won't get that type of explanation in the Superman movie, but this is how they're going to deal with it within the DCEU, the DCU. So we're going to go from DCEU to DCU in Peacemaker, and that could be rather interesting if done properly. But at the end of the day, it's a perfectly fine trailer, entertaining, dramatic. I like the whole Rick Flag Senior vibe. I think there's going to be another, threat that basically Peacemaker and Rick Flag Senior are going to have to team up to fight in the end. And maybe in this other pocket universe, maybe in the DCU, there is a Rick Flag Jr. and maybe Rick Flag Jr., Peacemaker, and Senior reunite via these pocket universes. Wouldn't that be cool? I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCU Daily. Until then, have a great Saturday.